On Salem Witch Trials Daily for April 21st, 1692, we reveal 9 new witchcraft suspects and discuss a bizarre letter written by Thomas Putnam. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
This is Sarah Jack. The 9 new suspects brought the total number of the accused to 23. Accusations had started at a trickle, but now the tap was wide open.
It sure was. Just a couple days ago, we had 4 people arrested and now 9 more. It's a busy, busy week. So, Benjamin Hutchinson, John Buxton, Thomas Putnam, and John Putnam Jr. filed witchcraft complaints against William Hobbs, Deliverance Hobbs, Nehemiah Abbott Jr., Mary Esty, Sarah Wilds, Edward Bishop Jr., Sarah Bishop, Mary Black, and Mary English.
And here are the people that have been named in the witchcraft complaints. William Hobbs of Topsfield was the 50-year-old husband of Abigail Hobbs' stepmother, Deliverance.
And Nehemiah Abbott Jr. was also from Topsfield. He was a weaver. His father's name was actually George, so it's interesting he's Nehemiah Abbott Jr., but he had a great uncle named Nehemiah Abbott. So the older of two got called senior and the younger was called junior, just to tell them apart.
Mary Esty of Topsfield, who was in her 50s, was the sister of Rebecca Nurse and Sarah Cloyce, who both were already in jail on charges of witchcraft. Born Marytown, she had been married to Isaac Esty for about 40 years.
Sarah Wilds, born Sarah Averill, married John Wilds in 1663. This couple also resided in Topsfield.
Edward Bishop Jr. and Sarah Bishop were a couple who had a farm in Salem Village and operated an unlicensed tavern. Sarah was born Sarah Wilds, daughter of John Wilds of Topsfield, and his first wife, Priscilla Gold, making her the stepdaughter of Sarah Wilds. Edward Bishop Jr. was not related to Bridget Bishop or her husband, Edward of Salem Town.
Mary Black was a black woman enslaved by Lieutenant Nathaniel Putnam of Salem Village.
At the opposite end of the social spectrum, Mary English, born Mary Hollingsworth, was about 39 years old and had spent 17 of those years married to the wealthiest man in Salem, Philip English, who had been born Philippe Langlois, and was baptized in 1651. It was rare in witch trials for a prominent woman to be accused, especially in New England. But Salem was no ordinary set of witch trials. A full-blown panic had erupted by this point in April, and clearly nobody was truly safe. Anyone could be named at this point, and Philip's French heritage may not have helped Mary's cause, even though his last name in French literally meant the English, indicating earlier English ancestry.
So then Salem magistrates John Hathorne and Jonathan Corwin issued warrants for the arrests of the 9 new suspects. They instructed Marshal George Herrick and any or all the constables in Salem or Topsfield or any town to bring the suspects to Ingersoll's Ordinary in Salem Village at 10 a.m. the next morning. Apparently, the 8 a.m. start on the 19th had been too early, for even with twice as many suspects to question, Hathorne and Corwin chose a later start.
And if you hadn't mentioned it, I was going to point that out.
Oh, good.
Also, on April 21st, John Hathorne, Jonathan Corwin, and Nicholas Noyes questioned Mary Warren in jail. She contradicted her earlier testimony and reported that it wasn't even Elizabeth Proctor who had brought her the book, but John Proctor. Furthermore, her story changed that she hadn't signed it unless just barely touching it counted as signing it. She admitted the contact made a black mark in the book, which was not the Bible. Just barely made the mark.
Barely made the mark. And her story, there's a lot of twists and turns we're going to try and walk through here. Is now she told them that John Proctor had held her hand and touched it to the book. So he's basically touching the book for her with her finger, and touching it made her tremble.
The magistrates and the minister questioning Mary told her it was her own fault she had sold her soul, because the devil could not have done it if she had not yielded.
And now Mary claimed she'd become a witch under duress. the Proctors threatened to drown her and to make her run through the hedges.
I can't imagine the emotional yo-yo this woman's gone through. At one point, she was posting a thank you note on the meeting house, and now she's here in jail.
Yeah, and she's getting lectured and told this is your own fault that this happened to you.
Yeah.
So you deserve what's coming, I guess.
She said that after she made that tiny black mark in the book, she ate bread and butter and got black marks on them too.
Yeah, apparently her fingers all got dirty when she touched that book. So throughout this examination, Mary experienced fits and kept crying out, I will tell, whenever she would come to, despite the specters of the Proctors telling her not to talk about them being witches.
Now, Mary's story, it changed again. She claimed that she had touched the book because the Proctors made her read it out loud and she couldn't pronounce the second word, so the Proctors told her to touch the book.
She fell for it. And she said that she hadn't told the whole truth before because the Proctors threatened to tear her all to pieces if she did.
John Proctor supposedly said Mary would run into the fire or water in her next fit and destroy herself.
Now Mary was asked whether she had not been instrumental to afflict the afflicted persons. She answered no, but when she heard they were afflicted in her shape, she began to fear it was the devil that hurt in her shape.
Was she implying that the devil hurt in her shape without her explicit permission? There was massive debate about this possibility ongoing in 1692. Some believed the devil had to have the express consent of a witch to use their likeness to afflict. Others said the devil could impersonate anyone, even an innocent person. For most of the year, the first group won out, successfully arguing that the sight of a person's specter was certain proof, evidence that the person had signed into a contract with the devil.
Now Mary was asked whether she had seen any images in the house, meaning items in the likeness of others, which could be manipulated to afflict those people. She said she had not seen any.
This is contrary to the Crucible, where in that story, Mary Warren's character not only sees an image, she makes it a puppet and gives it to Elizabeth Proctor.
And then she was asked whether there was ointment in the house. She replied that Elizabeth Proctor had once anointed her with some greenish ointment from Mrs. Bassett of Lynn. This Mrs. Bassett was Elizabeth's sister-in-law, the wife of her brother William Bassett Jr. This Mrs. Bassett, is going to be arrested for witchcraft on May 23rd. It's Sarah Bassett.
Elsewhere, on April 21st, Magistrate Samuel Appleton of Ipswich summoned witnesses John Choate Sr., Jonas Gregory, James Burnham, Mary Andrews, Sarah Rogers, Margaret Lord, and Sarah Hallwell to testify against Rachel Clinton. Remember her? She was arrested back on March 29th.
And in another development, Thomas Putnam wrote a letter, and boy was it a letter, to Jonathan Corwin and John Hathorne. Thomas first thanked the magistrates for the great care and pains you have already taken for us, for which a full reward will be given you of the Lord God of Israel. Thomas thought it our duty to inform your honors of what we conceive you have not heard, which are high and dreadful, of a wheel within a wheel, at which our ears do tingle.
Thomas closed the letter with a prayer asking that Hathorne and Corwin would be a terror to evildoers and a praise to them that do well.
Scholars agree that this letter is about George Burroughs, the former Salem village minister, whose specter had just allegedly visited Ann Putnam Jr. yesterday.
The wheel within a wheel could have referenced Ezekiel 1:16. In chapter 1, Ezekiel describes a vision of 4 creatures emerging from a whirlwind. In this vision, wheels appear, and there seems to be another wheel within each wheel. The vision culminates with the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord.
And then the reference to ears tingling was actually used by Deodat Lawson in his March 24th sermon in Salem Village. It comes from Jeremiah 19:3. In the King James Version, that verse says, "And say, hear ye the word of the Lord, O kings of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, Behold, I will bring evil upon this place, the which whosoever heareth, his ears shall tingle. So basically saying that the news of George Burroughs was so shocking and scandalous that it would amaze everybody to learn that this minister was an agent of the devil.